All right, everybody. Welcome to our Aspen Dental Ask Me Anything live session. I am Maggie Maurer. I am part of the academic team. My official title is Academic and Industry Relations Manager. So I am a dentist recruiter for academics. And you were all invited here today so you can pick the brain of our special guest, Dr. Drew Patchett. Thank you, doctor, for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. I've read up on your story a little bit, and I like your career path. It's not, in a straight order. It's not in a straight line. So I want to get to you, and then also, if any of you don't know who Aspen Dental is, we're the largest branded DSO in the nation. Over 840 offices across the country. We're opening a new office every 4 to 5 days. And so we have a lot of opportunities for experienced dentists, new student dentists that are just graduating out of school. And we are a yes company. So, and by that I mean, we take all the insurances. We can see you the same day. We have very high new patient counts. Really upbeat offices. I'm an Aspen patient before I joined the company, and I love Aspen Dental as a patient. So I can speak from the other side of things. So, Dr. Drew Patchett, if you could introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dr. Drew Patchett. I graduated from the University of Alabama in Birmingham. I worked for a year in Northeast Tennessee around the Knoxville area. And then I've been back at the Dothan, Alabama location as the MCD, Managing Clinical Director, in that location for about a month and a half, 2 months now, sometime late June. So 2 months, yeah. I That is me. All right. I come from Dothan, Alabama, lived in Birmingham for 9 years, going to school, graduated, went to Tennessee, and came back home.
Yeah, you had a little gig though after you received your undergrad. You were working as
Yeah,
a
I was a
dental assistant.
Yeah, I worked as a dental assistant for a year, like one of the few male dental assistants I've ever met. It was a cool job. I enjoyed it. It was like one of my favorite years. It definitely gave me an appreciation for the field. My like career path definitely like I when I first went to undergrad, I was just like smart in high school and people told me I was supposed to be a doctor or a lawyer. And then I went to undergrad and I started shadowing some doctors and I didn't like it. And then I just like knee jerk reaction senior year tried to get into dental school and didn't get in because I didn't deserve to. And then I worked as a dental assistant for a year and really fell in love with it. Came back, reapplied, got in the second time, and I haven't looked back. I've enjoyed it. I've had a good
Oh,
time.
that's
Yeah,
great. That's
yeah.
great. It's
It
nice to
was,
be able to experience the field before you
yeah,
go into the profession.
it is. It's nice. It's nice to be the only guy that knows how to take an alginate freshman year. Like, yeah, it was fun. Like, I had a good time. Dental assisting it's an interesting to see like the flip side of things because you see like I always used to be like, why is this guy so stressed out sometimes when he's like taking his third impression and then you do it and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Like it's just
Right.
it can be it's interesting to see both side of things. Like
Yeah, yeah. Well, good. Maybe you can touch on how you started your process in looking for a position as a licensed dentist, and kind of like at what point in dental school did you start to look around, and what was your recruiting process, not only with Aspen Dental, but maybe
with the other
other
locations.
DSOs or private practices?
Yeah, I can definitely go into depth about that. I don't know if it's similar everywhere for this, but I've talked to a couple people and it seems to be across the board. But if you go to a school, like in the state of Alabama, there's only one dental school and there's only one real city. It's Birmingham, and everybody goes there. They go to dental school. They want to stay there. I was competing when I started to originally look around for jobs in the area. And I remember there's one threshold moment for me where I was in a dental office and I was in the lobby and I was there for an interview. And then one of my classmates came out of the like into the lobby and said like, "Hey Drew, like I just interviewed, you're next." And I was like, okay, I got to start casting a wider net. And so I started to interview with I knew I wanted to work for a DSO. I started interviewing with every DSO I could find. And I interviewed in Toledo, Austin, Colorado Springs, Chattanooga, Knoxville. Where else? I think that was like the major ones, but I interviewed in a
Mhm.
lot of places, like a lot of resumes sent out. And then I met Carrie Bookout in Chattanooga, and she's now the DVP of a couple of regions. She's pretty high
Mhm.
up in the company at this point, and we hit it off. I was a big fan. She interviewed me, and then it was a snafu if I was interviewing in a Fort Oglethorpe office for the Chattanooga region, but I didn't take credits, and that's technically in Georgia, so I didn't have the license. And it was like 2 weeks after I'd taken CETA, and she said, "Well, would you be willing to retake the exam?" And I was like, "No, I'll like die in the streets before I retake licensure." And then she said, "Well, I've got this guy in Knoxville if you want to go meet him." And then I met Dr. John, and then it was just done from there. I moved up and I accepted the position. I started off looking probably all said and done. I probably started looking in November and I was, signed up sometime in April or March. I had a pretty long stint. I was not in a rush. I kind of meandered around, talked to people, and then talked to other people. There were some people that got it locked up early, some people that decided late. I mean, at the
Mhm.
end of the day, dentistry is not a field that is difficult to find a position in. So, I mean, I would say look so that you can see all your options, but don't feel like you should be rushed if you haven't figured one out yet. You can definitely find a job with our field. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's great advice. Did you happen to shadow at all with Aspen Dental or another DSO?
Um, Not with DSOs. I never really shadowed with organizations when I was in school. When I was going to school, I'd shadowed with a bunch of places. Obviously, as
Mhm.
part of like how I got the job as a dental assistant was off of a shadowing position. But I never shadowed offices when I was in dental school. Besides the days that I would go interview, and then I would spend the day at the location. So I mean, I definitely spent some time in Aspen offices. I've spent some time
Mhm.
in like Pacific offices, and spent some time in a Heartland office. I mean, a couple private practice offices too. I mean, I would spend the day there, but I wouldn't necessarily call it shadowing. It's more like
Okay.
interviewing.
Sure, sure. And those of you that, we had a few more join just now. There is a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen if you want to submit a question for the doctor. And it's anonymous, so fire away. Um, oh, and those of you that are listening, I asked about shadowing because we do have that opportunity for anyone that wants to experience an Aspen Dental office. We can arrange that for you. And it can be near where you're living right now, even though that may not be where your goal is to be in your life, in a different city. That's fine. We can get you hooked up to shadow somewhere near where you live right now. So tell me a little bit about, Dr. John, you joined Dr. John and the mentorship that he provided when you started out.
John, really, when I look back on my career, there's really like three people that I can like say were my big influencers. One was the guy I assisted for, one was a really close professor in dental school, and then one was Dr. John. The first month that I was out, it started working for Aspen. There's a program that where you train for a month before you start your position. There's a structured
Mm-hmm.
way for you to enter into a training program. Mine was a little bit atypical, where instead of going to the office that I was intended to go to or with my certified mentor, there was some personal issues with her that led to me, having to pivot. And they were, okay, I'm going to start. John's the only certified mentor, but John is a POP, so he owns 10 offices. So he travels office to office. So instead of me being centrally located at one office, I just kind of followed John around to wherever he was going. And I would work out of that office for the day that he was there, and I would, do a bunch of different stuff, whether I was seeing patients or working the front. Sometimes I would be the receptionist. Sometimes I would, do some of the computer stuff. A lot of the times I was doing the dentistry. Sometimes I would go back there and spend the day being a lab tech. But it was really wherever John was going, I was going with him. It eventually became such a routine that for the last 2 weeks of my month, I would park in the parking lot of like, or it was like sometime around the end of it, but I would actually park a couple times on the other side of his kid's school. He would drop his kids off, and then he would come to the other side and pick his other kid up. And people would always in the region be like, "Oh, there's Drew's coming. He's carrying John's stuff in." Like, it was me. Yeah, I had a good time. He taught me a lot. He definitely grew me as a clinician for, exponentially. I owe him a lot.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I think that's where Aspen Dental really proves themselves in doctor development is that mentorship. So let's talk a little bit about, we've got some questions coming in. Let's talk a little bit about the services that you provide in the office that you're in now. Of course, we do have dentures. We have a denture
Mhm.
lab. Do you have a denture lab in your office?
I
I'm
have two lab
guessing.
techs in my office, Lisa and
Okay.
Alicia. They're both great lab techs, big fans. They, we do dentures in our offices. Obviously, I mean, a lot of surgery heavy in my office. I'm trying to think, what services do I offer? I mean, bread and butter stuff, a lot of surgery. I did a lot more endo when I had an associate up in East Tennessee. I've kind of fallen out of it. I get PTSD from endo, kind of. I think it's from dental school, but like I get real nervous for no reason whenever I'm doing endo. But so I tend to shy away from it. But I've done plenty of it. Trying to think, a lot of surgery like tori removals, exostoses removal, full mouth extractions. I definitely alveoplasties. I know what I'm looking for when it comes to surgery at this point because I've been Northeast Tennessee was a very immediate denture heavy region. I mean, I can
Mhm.
take thirds out if I really feel like it, but I tend to not do it just because I'm not a big fan of that procedure either. Yeah, a lot of surgery stuff, a lot of obviously bread and butter. I mean, I did 3 bridges today. Some pros. I'm trying to think. General. I became Invisalign certified in Northeast Tennessee. Got a lot into that when we had Dr. Galler here. We have a new doctor now. I can't think of her name right now. I
Mhm.
haven't been doing it in Dothan as much because we just got our iTero, the scanner, which is very integral to doing clear aligners. It's a huge deal. But clear aligners were very fun. It's like putting a puzzle together. I've been a big fan of doing that as well. But expanded from dental school, probably the clear aligners and surgery are the two biggest things. I mean, I've become a lot more comfortable with endo than when I was in school, but again, I tend to shy away with it just because I don't enjoy it as much, and I don't, we're very fortunate that we don't have to do the things we don't enjoy in our field.
Yeah. So I did have a question come in that asked if we hire specialists. So the answer
Yeah.
to that is yes,
Hmm.
oral surgeons and endodontists. So when you're not feeling comfortable with something, you can refer it.
Yeah.
Um,
We have Dr. Curtis and what was it say? Dr. Rotwein come to my office. Dr. Rotwein is an oral surgeon. He comes once a month. Dr. Curtis is an endodontist. He comes 2 times a month, and I refer my stuff out to them. Sometimes when I'm like feeling froggy and I want to do another root canal case, I always schedule it on a day Dr. Curtis is there so that I can be like, hey man, like, come check this for me. Like, what's going on with this? It's
oh,
nice to
that's
have that.
good.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
They're both great. They're both great docs. They're both very good resources. I'm a big fan. They come to our uh, they come into our office about once a month. You schedule things for them. You screen the patients. You have them prepared for them when they come in. They're nice. They're a great resource.
Yeah, and the person that asked that question, I can follow up with you in more detail about how our specialists work within our offices. Here's a great question, kind of segueing into this. When did you start to feel comfortable with treatments completely on your own? And when you need help with something, is it pretty easy to ask for help as a new dentist?
It
If you're
is as a
questioning,
new yeah, for sure, as a new dentist, especially an associate position. With me personally, when did I become comfortable? I had an atypical path to working on my own. My position became a floating coverage guy pretty quickly, where I was working on my own very quickly out of school through my own accord. Nobody like pushed me into it or anything. You can definitely stay as an associate for as long as you feel like you need to, feel comfortable to. But I was very quickly it became when a doctor would go out in John's region, I would go to the office, I would cover for them. So I would have these 1 or 2 day stints where I would be by myself. So I got to dip my toes in it. And then I would go back to the safety of having an MCD around me, and I would go work a week where I was in my base office, and then I would have another like 1 day stint where I was by myself. And then eventually, over time, 4 or 5 months down the road, I came to him and I said, "Yeah, I think it's time for me to be by myself. I think I'm comfortable doing it. I have been by myself enough times that I kind of know what to expect, how to handle that. It's there's no black and white answer, yes or no answer to when you're comfortable doing it, but it's when you make that decision yourself. It can be, yeah, it's elusive.
yeah, and the development of each doctor is at their pace.
Hmm.
So
And
Um,
as an associate, you should always have somebody in your office. An MCD is always going to be there. Somebody that's experienced and is experienced enough to justify having a secondary doctor there to, mentor. That's the role as an MCD, is you're meant to help the secondary doctor get to where they need to be in order to become a leader themselves.
mhm,
If you're an associate, you'll always have someone there to ask for advice or,
right.
help with things.
Yeah, and just for clarification for those listening, there's the associate dentist, and then an MCD is a lead dentist.
Mhm.
So our practices, most of our practices are owned by an Aspen doctor. And Dr. Patchett, right now you are in a large group practice.
Hmm. I am.
Okay.
I'm.
Do
It's
you
the Wild
have
West out here, right? All
do
right.
you have ownership on your, on your radar at all?
I'd like that. I definitely have had talks so far about doing that. So I like the idea of it. I like mentorship, and I definitely have had some conversations about it. But I would like to think that it's in my future. But at the end of the day, it's still new to me. I'm still only been down here 2 months. I think I still have some writing to do with my team. I have to establish myself here before I start looking into the future that heavily. But I would think that I've got to build my team first, right? But it's something I'd like to entertain.
Yeah, good, good. Yeah, it's an opportunity for most everybody that's, in our network as a dentist. Um, I have a great question here. I am looking forward to applying at Aspen Dental. When would be the best time to start an application? I'm going to
Oh,
graduate in May.
next May.
Yeah.
I would say the best time to start the application is the earlier the better, just because you get a
Mhm.
better idea of, if you know where you want to work at, it gives you opportunity to allow them to set up the position for you. If you don't know where you want to work at, it gives you the opportunity to see what each region is like. I would say the sooner the better. I mean, if you talk to Maggie or anybody else in the organization, they will give you some advice on how to start that process. But I think there is no
Yeah.
there's never too soon, right?
Right. Yeah, I did. Folks start early and last minute, but to get the
Mm.
conversations rolling, it's just beneficial for you as a dental student about to graduate. Here's a question that came in: are you able to do your own treatment planning?
Yeah, for sure. I treatment plan my own patients. Whenever you start off, obviously you are kind of starting your position and working off of other people's treatment plans because you just haven't been in the office long enough to see your treatment plans. I mean, it takes about a month for you to see your own treatment plans. For example, when I came to this office, I was taking over for another doc, and it's not like they shut the office down until I got there. I took
Hmm.
over for him. We had a transition period where we were both working together for about 2 weeks, and then I started treatment planning. But really, the way that the scheduling works is you don't really start to see your own treatment plans for about a month from when you get there. But I mean, you definitely see your own. Whether you see your own or work with the MCDs, like you'll trade in and out. I've worked in a lot. I was a floating guy for a while, so I've worked in a lot of these offices. It really depends on what the dynamic between you and the other doctor is, if that happens or not. Some people want to work off their own treatment plan. Some people are so comfortable with the type of treatment plan, because I mean, it's dentistry. Nobody treatment plans the same way. But I've worked with some people that I'm very comfortable that we understand like what treatment planning is. Our ideals align on treatment planning, so we're comfortable sharing patients and doing back and forth. And then I've worked with some people where they're not wrong, but we just have different ideals on what correct treatment planning is, and we would see our own
Hmm.
patients, and we were more comfortable doing that, and the patients got seen, and we did good dentistry. But we just did it individually in the same under the same roof.
Hmm. Nice, nice. So, how many new patients do you see on average per day?
It depends on what office you're in, really. But Dothan is a very high demand office. I think we're one of the highest demand offices in the country. It's endless demand down here in South Alabama. I see about 10, 9. Really, the ideal, what I'd like to see is about 9 a day. I think I'm at 8 a day, and I think the most this office has ever been at is 10 or 11 a day. I mean, back in Tennessee, I was seeing about 7 a day, and then I think that's pretty average. I think the company average is like 7.5. They
Hmm.
have like there's a whole list of metrics for all this types of stuff, but I think about 7.5 is average for the company. But I'm on the high end down here because it's a very high demand area, and it's I think about
Right.
9 is what we're looking for. I
Yeah,
mean,
and there's a lot of things that drive that, folks. I mean, we have just an enormous marketing department that is, pushing the message so that everybody knows we are in the community. A lot of times we're in a community that has no other options for everyone there. So
oh yeah,
um,
for
the
sure. I mean,
marketing, the marketing's bringing people in the door, and we do have a centralized call center right in Phoenix, Arizona, that's taking those new patient calls and scheduling them for the offices. Very seamless, making sure that, our new patients and existing patients are getting, their questions answered, and we can get them in as soon as possible.
yeah, there's never a lack of dentistry to be done.
Right, right. So here's a question. Do you have many walk-ins each day?
Yes, we do. We have walk-ins. They're always fun. It's if we have nothing going on, always come back. Sometimes we have to schedule them out, unfortunately, but I'd see about two a day, and it's always entertaining to see because I always think like, hey, I could never myself imagine just walking into a doctor's office nowadays. I don't know what it is like.
Right.
Yeah, I always like what was going through your head when you just I'll walk in, I'll pop in and see what they're doing. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I like working them in if we can, but if we're busy, I'm gonna be like, hey, like I mean we can work you in, but it's gonna be like a 2 hour wait. Is that okay with you? Like sometimes, yeah, it's amazing what people will do, and they're like, yeah, okay, we'll hang out here, and then we'll see them. But yeah, I'd say like walk-ins, probably two a day, but normally your new patients are going to be scheduled. Like for example, if you call my office right now, I'm booked out till October. I mean, and
Wow.
that's just I'm talking when we say I see 9 new patients a day, that means that we have 12 on the schedule a day. It's just 9 a day that we actually see. You have no shows obviously, but I mean, I have 12 new patients a day from here until October. There is not a lack of dentistry to be done. That's for sure.
Yeah, which just increases your skill level every
Oh yeah.
day. Yeah. We have a great question here. What is your opportunity for further education, like implants? So, can you talk a little bit about, what you've been
Yeah.
trained in through Aspen Dental?
Uh, Whenever it comes to training, I have not learned to place implants. I haven't pursued that necessarily. I have definitely learned more about restoring implants from working with Dr. John. He kind of acted as our like local periodontist oral surgeon. He would go office to office and place implants. He would coach you through the restoration of those. And then when it comes to from the company getting more advanced knowledge about implants is, I mean, you can go to all of the CE courses that's thrown in your email every day. The implant continuum is just constantly being hammered at you. Like, come join us, come see this. Unfortunately, large CE courses are not being held right now, but I mean, you can get on a webinar every other day that's taught by some of the leading people in implant dentistry, and it's free to you as an ADMI Aspen employee. It's
Yeah.
definitely something that you can access. I mean, we can get there's a huge initiative going on with implant dentistry in Aspen Dentals simply because I think we can get a cone beam for like $20,000 in our offices. I mean, the buying power that we've teamed with, I can't think of the company name now, but it was right before, the COVID hit, and it was
Right.
things have been pushed aside. It's been a tumultuous year for everyone, of course, but there was a huge implant change started in January for all of the companies to, everybody's going to get a cone beam, everybody's going to get the implant continuum. It will come back. It is coming back, but my personal training with it, I haven't got to the point that I feel comfortable, like putting screws in faces yet. I still have a lot to go for oral surgery. I think that it's been some great advice I got from Dr. John was, it's got to be 8, 9 months, 10 months, a year since you had an issue pulling a tooth out before you think about doing an implant. You've got to be very comfortable in your skin, pulling flaps, doing alveo. You got to know your way around the anatomy. If you can't do a torau removal, you shouldn't be putting a screw in someone's face. And I've still got a little bit to go before I really get there, but it's coming for me.
Yeah. So you had mentioned our CE classes, and everybody that's listening, Aspen's not only giving that out to our own doctors. It's free for anyone right now within the dental field. So you can go to aspence.com/welcome, and you can take advantage of all our CE courses right there. And I will follow up with each of you afterwards in an email, and I'll attach that link so you have access to it. So that was pretty neat. Something that we started right when the pandemic started, and so Many people that were maybe their office was closed, they were able to take advantage of CE. So here's a great question about the pandemic. Has the pandemic affected how many patients you are seeing on a daily basis? And if so, how do you reassure patients that are nervous about going to the dentist at this time?
Uh, it has not affected the amount of patients that I'm seeing by any means. Obviously, our demand is still high. It's amazing. I did teledentistry during the month of April, and I was
Oh, good.
yeah, it's where all this like set up. I've got like a webcam and a headset from it. I was one of three guys in Tennessee that for the month of April, when it was, executive order, I think it was 29, that said that it was only non-emergency dental treatment was a misdemeanor, and only emergency dental treatment, it had to be bleeding, pain, or swelling, and every dental office was shut down. And we had gone from 10 offices open to one office open that was only doing emergent treatment. And it was I was in a service where if you called an Aspen Dental, it connected to me or two other guys, and you called an Aspen Dental in Tennessee, period. It was me or two other guys. And it was, we were all in this chat room together, and then we would say, like, hey, we've got one. And I was answering about 20 FaceTime calls a day. That was just, I felt like antibiotic Pez dispenser, because it would be, I get a call from somebody and my tooth hurts, they got a swelling on their face, and they're 2 hours from the closest
Oh,
dental office that's open. And it's just, you're trying to give people care. And then it was a crazy month anyway. I segued from that. It's amazing when the dental offices opened back up. I was going from 20 to 30 calls a day, and then all of a sudden I went to no calls a day. As soon as the executive order got repealed, people were back in the offices, people were seeking care, because at the end of the day, it can be a life-threatening scenario. And it's also, what is an emergency to one person is not an emergency to the other. I remember some of the hardest conversations I had with people over the month of April were, is the right to dignity an emergency? Is that broken front tooth something that was really considered emergent treatment? And to them, yeah, for sure, it definitely is. People would plead with you, but at the end of the day, to the letter of the law, was it bleeding, pain, or swelling?
mhm.
People will always seek dental care where it is. When it comes to making patients feel comfortable in the offices, it's, we enforce all the regulations you see everywhere else. Everybody's going to be wearing a level 3 mask no matter what they're doing. Everyone's going to be, no additional, you can't bring your spouse, your wife, your husband, your mother, your daughter, your son. Nobody gets to come back in with you. We try to limit the amount of patients in the building. It's the same as everywhere else. We try our best, but at the end of the day, we're still treating patients I think to the same level that we were pre-COVID at this point. The demand is there, and people need the care.
Right. Yeah. And let's talk about that. PPE, from everything I'm hearing, and I know this for a fact, it's coming in, rapid
Oh yeah.
fire to your office on a scheduled, delivery. So you're never going without anything.
Oh yeah, it's kind of funny. My girlfriend is a nurse practitioner, and she works with a cardiology group. And we were going to Target like a week or two ago, and I pulled one of my masks from work because I'd kind of steal them from work. So I'd got one out and gave it to her, and she was like, "You got the level 3 mask? Like, we can't even get these at work at the hospital." And I was like, "Oh, we got
Yeah.
a bunch of these at work. Like, I ain't throwing them around. Like, I mean, you can get."
Right. Right.
It's amazing that we have so much access to the PPE that we really need. You can definitely. We had it before and after. Yeah, it's definitely amazing. It's a part of being with such a large network that we have such great support.
Right. Right. Yeah. So you had mentioned at the beginning, you knew you were going to go to work for a DSO, you
Mhm.
said. And why was that? And how did Aspen Dental stand apart for you?
It was the people in Aspen that made it stand apart for me. It was definitely Carrie and John, and the individuals that I met within the organization that made it stand apart for me.
Okay.
Along with getting to do, I did like the fact that you got to do a little bit of everything. There's some of the other ones that will kind of sequester you down into specific things, but I think the big takeaway from that conversation would be, it was Carrie and John. It was the individuals in the company. But why did I want to join a DSO? It was for the structure. I knew I wanted to get out and go into something that was, it had a structured path. It had done it before. There were systems in place. They knew how to train a doctor. They had seen new doctors. They knew what they were doing when it comes to mentorship. I wanted to join a structure. And when you look at private practice, it could be it can be better, it can be worse. It's always going to be a coin toss though, and that was what I knew it was, and I wasn't ready to, if I was going to throw a wide net and move somewhere, I wanted to make sure that it was something that was steady and even.
Right. Okay, good. Well, so I know you're in your hometown now and you
Mhm.
started out in Knoxville. So how did that play out for you? Did you originally want to be in your hometown and had to make a
I
short sacrifice?
Yeah, it's kind of a personal thing, but I had always planned on kind of moving back home. I always knew like in the future I'd like to be closer to my family, but I had some personal issues that brought me home. It was like family stuff. I'd rather not get into it really, but it was family issues that brought me back. I enjoyed Tennessee. I had no complaints about Tennessee, but I had personal life events that brought me home.
Sure, sure. And everybody that's listening, I talk to students every day that have a city that they want to be in, and sometimes we can get you there
Mm.
eventually, but you may have to start somewhere else, maybe 2-3 hours away from your goal city. So those are conversations to start now with us so that we know what your goals are. I mean, our goal is to get you to your goal. So honestly, our doctors are very happy because we're working side by side with them to get them, where they want to be, the support they need. Um, so as an organization, it's really promoting your development and getting you to that end result of where you want to be. If you want to be an owner, people speak up very early in the game, and, you know, ownership could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years away, but it's quicker than you think. So, yeah, it happens fast. Yeah. Okay. Well, great. Were you able to take advantage of any student loan repayment when you came on to Aspen Dental?
I did not. I did not take advantage of any. What when you come to a larger city like Knoxville, it's not something that's really offered. It's not in the cards. If you go to a more rural area, I know people that are in the network that have had, up to 200,000 dollar loan repayment. It's definitely an option. If you ask for it, you can definitely pursue those. But you'll be looking at a more rural area in order to get those. That's for sure. Thankfully, it's been a side effect of COVID is that nobody's had to pay their student loans. It's been nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh, so we touched on implants, and you talked about the iTero scanner being in your office
Mhm.
now that you just got it. So let's talk about Invisalign.
Big fan. I like Invisalign. It's fun. It's definitely you put a puzzle together. You can't do Invisalign. You can't. There's no. Sorry, I'm saying a bunch of things here. There's no easier way to get into Invisalign, in my opinion, than the way that it was presented to me in Knoxville through Aspen. I mean, when I was going through lift training and the CE courses and getting into it, getting my feet wet and getting into the clear aligners, it was through Dr. Galler. He was still with the company at that point, and there's an orthodontist. What, Maggie? Do you know her name off the top of your head?
Can't pronounce it, but I
Okay.
I can't. I apologize.
It's
I
okay.
haven't really.
In my time with doing this, it was Dr. Galler that was our go-to
Uh-huh.
for this. And Dr. Galler is a general dentist who was originally in New York, and he was the kind of the guy in New York that did Invisalign, and he taught all these CE courses. And so essentially, when you were doing an Invisalign case, you would sit down, you would scan the patient, you would present the clean check, you would get the clean check back, and then you would talk to him through the software about he would give you feedback on you want to put a bite ramp here, you really want to make sure that you've got a button on the laterals because you're going to have a hard time grabbing those. You want to make sure that if you're at tray 17 and they don't have posterior occlusion anymore, you want to start cutting those trays at the premolar because you're going to get those to come back out. I mean, there's no better way to get into it than to have somebody, he was in Syracuse doing this all day long. He would just, you could message him at any time of the day and he would message you back and, give you great feedback on, you don't want to do all that IPR. This ClinCheck's going to say you're going to do 0.5 millimeters, but you don't want to do 0.5 millimeters because you're going to come back with these like fangs and they're not going to like it. You're not going to like it. Don't do that. It's just the computer telling you to do that. There was no better way for me to learn how to do clear aligners than through the Aspen network, and you get to do it. You get to do it more often, in my opinion, because we can offer it at a price that is much more competitive than some of the people that are in the region.
Yeah. Definitely. And let's, the other great things about the iTero scanner, just me being an
Excellent.
Aspen patient,
Oh
just
yeah.
being able to see everything in my mouth, which is
Patient education
crazy.
is huge for the iTero scanner. Also,
Yeah.
partials come back so much better. You can't beat the partials. Dentures aren't all the way there yet. There are some guys. It's an opinion based thing, really. But in my opinion, I don't think that they're all the way there. Partials though, you can't beat because you got to think. You take an alginate, it's going to distort. You can try to take a PVS, but I mean, are you going to lock on? How annoying is it to do the custom tray appointment? And when you can take a scan and you can get something back that there's no it clicks in there. You can't beat the partials that come back from the iTero. I preach
Mhm.
it.
And you mentioned you have two lab technicians in your
Hmm.
office.
We
So
have
how
very
many
dedicated.
operatories do you have as well? Is it a pretty big office?
7 ops, two.
Okay.
I got 4 assistants, 3.5 upfront staff. We have 1 part-timer, and then 2 lab techs. Yeah, 7 offices. That's the standard from what I've been used to in Tennessee, and that's 7 operatories. You get 2 for new patients, 1 for overflow, and then 1 for hygiene, maybe 2 for hygiene if you got 2 hygienists. I only have 1 hygienist right now. I've worked in some offices where I've had 2. Yeah, but really, I mean, the full company is going to be 2 hygienists, 2 doctors, 4 dental assistants, 4 upfront staff, and you're just rocking.
Yeah.
That's yeah. There's a whole bunch of schemes for it, though. I mean, I've seen people that have 2 doctors and 6 dental assistants. I mean, I worked in a lot of these offices. There's no right or wrong answer. It's whatever works for the office itself. But I mean, most of the
Mhm.
time, you're going to see 7 operatories, 7 plumbed operatories.
Mhm. So I have a question here about compensation. So our dentists have a daily rate that they're
Hmm.
paid, which is different across the country just based on what the practice owner has negotiated with the new dentist coming into their practice.
Hmm.
And then we have profit sharing, which is paid out each month, and that is based on our customer satisfaction scores. Um, do you want to touch on any of that, doctor, and how
Yeah,
you feel that just works in a positive way for the entire office?
yeah, there's everyone is incentivized in different ways in the office. I mean, your office manager is going to be incentivized in a different way than the dental assistant, who's incentivized in a different way than the lab tech, who's incentivized in a different way than the doctor. But at the end of the day, it's all based off of different metrics specific to your role in the office. The doctors, as the engines in the machine. We're the captains, we're the leaders, so it's kind of a general thing for us. It's based off of profit. You get a percentage of the profit of the building, and that's what it is. At the end of the day, there's nothing that happens under the roof that's not under your jurisdiction. You should be a part of everything. So that's the way that the incentives come out.
Right, right. So, and the daily rate is never taken away from you.
No,
So,
no, no, no.
if there ever was a situation where there wasn't a profit sharing amount at the end of the
Mhm.
month, it never comes away
Yeah.
from your daily rate. Um, Most doctors I talk to during these Ask Me Anything sessions are, they've never not received any profit sharing. So,
Because no, 100%. It's hard
mhm,
to. That's why I kind of forgot. Yeah, I assume the incentive is a thing because you forget about that. Yeah, for the first like 2 months, 3 months, really. But I mean, once the schedule gets, it's not really because you're fast. People ask me all the time, it's like, when am I going to be fast enough to clear my profit sharing? And it's not really about you being faster or slower. It's
mhm,
just about the fact that, like, you didn't have a column open when you got here, that we weren't booking patients for you when you got here. You were getting your toes wet and you were starting to see, like, patients, and we were starting to put treatment plans together for you. And it takes 2, 3 months to really build you a schedule. I mean, if I just showed up in an office as an associate right now, I mean, I wouldn't see an incentive for 2 months, no matter how fast I am, because nobody's built me a schedule. It just takes some time to really like get you going and seeing your patients.
right.
But once you do, you're rocking. I mean, you're going.
Yeah. So we did have a question come in about benefits and vacation days, and I can answer
Hmm.
that one. So we do have health, dental, and vision insurance, 401k plan that you can participate in after you're with us for a year. Then there's 10 paid vacation days, 6 paid holidays, and 3 paid personal days. So we do pay out that holiday time, 10 10 paid vacation days is known as 2 weeks because they're actually, working days. So doctor, is your office, what are the hours of the office you're in now? Are you open on Saturdays? How does that work where
I'm
you
not
are
open
now?
on Saturdays right now. I was open on Saturdays in the past. I'm not right now. We work 41 hours a week. I make the schedule. So I work 7:30 to 8:30. We see patients 41 hours a week. Them's the rules. I see patients 7:30 to 5:30 Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I see patients 7:30 to 6 on Thursday, and then I see patients 7:30 to noon on Fridays. So I get half days on Fridays. I see patients 41 hours a week. In Knoxville, I was doing one Saturday a month. I've fallen out of it since I've been back here, but it's totally up to you. I mean, it's however you want to there's a lot of freedom with it. I mean, going back to like the time off, I never have a problem getting time off. I mean, of course, we're not in a role where you can just call in the morning of. That's not something that's an option for me. I mean, you're a healthcare provider, then there are 10, 12 other people that aren't allowed to work if you're not in the building. So I mean, you do have to give notice. I give a month notice, and I never have a problem getting time off. And the ADMI has never had a problem finding me a temp doctor cover for me, finding me some type of coverage so that everybody gets to continue doing their jobs. But I've never been told like you can't take a day off, but I always give appropriate notice to do so.
Mhm. And you just said ADMI, which I should explain. So Aspen Dental Management Inc.
Mm.
is the support organization. I don't work for the same company actually that Doctor does. Doc, you work for Aspen Dental. I work for ADMI. I'm on the support side of things, marketing, recruiting, finance, all of those things that are supporting all the Aspen offices is there to support the practice owners so they can focus on patient care. So the business side of things for Aspen Dental is ADMI, for those that don't know. Yeah, okay, great. So we talked about specialists visiting the office and the front of the house, let's call it,
The tile,
huge,
tile
such an
versus the
important,
carpet. Like,
that's such an important part of how your office runs and runs smoothly. The office manager is, explaining to patients about the care and treatment and what it's going to cost and things like that. Do you get involved at all with your office manager as far as the patient care and what they're going to be paying for?
do I get involved in the patient care? No, I mean I make the treatment
The
plans.
conversations that once you've treated a patient and they are leaving the office and they're scheduling their next visit and all of that, you do have support that handles everything once you're done treating a patient.
Oh yeah, I mean the next step is scheduled. It's yeah, without me. It's whatever the
Mhm.
treatment plan says in the computer from the first time that I've treatment planned the patient. It's carried through where I mean it's pretty self-explanatory. If we've got a whole mouthful of caries and we've got a whole restorative treatment plan and we do one quad, whenever I leave it's like, okay, let's get them scheduled for the next quad. When it
Right.
comes to getting I think maybe the question is about pricing, having the conversation about like what is the next price for these things and getting scheduled and all of that. I tend to like to have the scary conversations with them on the front end where I can let them know the big picture of things. It's hard to have a conversation with somebody about like what the difference between a root canal and a crown and extraction is if they don't understand that one is going to cost them thousands of dollars and one is going to cost them hundreds. I mean, they need to hear the big scary thing from the dentist first. But I hash out, if you're going to do these two fillings, it's going to be this much versus these three fillings, it's going to be that much. No, I don't really get into the details. Like, I mean, I'll tell you
Right.
generally what things cost, but at the end of the day, I don't understand the insurance enough to really give you a very detailed list of like, okay, it's going to be this much cent, but because some of those people come in there and be like, you charge me 50 more cent than you said, and I'm just like, okay, I don't, that was it. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, our office managers are, they're experts with the insurance and the
Yeah,
third party financing and helping people navigate all that, which is all a part of the customer's experience with us.
a huge part of it.
Huge part of it. And the way the office operates, depends on so many people. And And that's where, you know, just patient satisfaction and patient care is number one. And then everybody wins. You know, we like people to leave happy. Can you tell me about delivery day for dentures?
Oh gosh, I love a good delivery day. It's a big day for everybody. It can be some of the scariest moments for people. It can be some of the most enjoyable moments for people. Every patient handles it differently. It's one of the most rewarding days you're ever going to have in your career. It's also some of the scariest days you're ever going to have in your career. They're just very emotional moments for everybody involved, and I like them. Extract and inserts are where it's at. It's definitely a fun day for everybody.
Yeah.
When you get those that just get up there and this the first time they've smiled in years and they sit there and they cry, and it's an amazing moment for everybody involved. And you get a lot of those here. You get a lot of giving people back what they haven't had in years. One of my phrases is, we'll put you somewhere you haven't been in several years. We'll make you smile and function again. We can give that to you.
Oh, yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I've witnessed it in the practice that I go to, and you know, I don't even know these people, and I'm crying for them because it's exciting. Yeah, so great. We can wrap up if nobody else has any other questions. I just want to make sure there are any last minute details. Those of you that are participating, I truly thank you. I will follow up with each and every one of you. There were some questions that were asked that I'll just take offline. And I'll connect with you in the next 24 hours. We are raffling off a $75 Amazon gift card. So doctor, I am going to we have 11 participants. So I would like you, Doc can't see any of your names. So I would like you to just pick a number between 1 and 11.
Let's go with the 8. I like an 8.
Jennifer.
There you go, Jennifer. All right.
Jennifer, you are our winner tonight, and I will actually be delivering that via email for you. So you will get that later tonight in your email. It will be an Amazon code to use on Amazon. If you've never used one before, it's pretty self-explanatory. You just throw it in your cart and pay for what you want. So couple more questions. Hang on, let's just make sure. Oh, well, Jennifer's excited.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Yay, Jennifer, exciting. Well, good. Well, thank you all very much for joining us, Doctor. I really appreciate you taking your time out of your Wednesday night. And everybody, have a great night, and I'll follow up with you soon. Bye-bye.
See ya.